All right, welcome to Give Me Mike. Welcome, YouTube universe. Welcome to Give Me Mike, where we're going to highlight leaders that motivate, inspire, and cultivate our future. I'm your host, Sylvester Bailey. I'm a 3L law student at St. Thomas University College of Law. I'm a law clerk at Kubicki Draper and a personal injury and construction defect firm, and a partner at All Dolled Up Salons family, where we've been celebrating over 40 years of industry in the community. Through this platform, we're going to talk about law, business, and storytelling by sitting down with voices who inspire and challenge us. So today we have none other than our part two guest, Elizabeth Paige White. She's a powerhouse criminal and civil rights attorney and of counsel at Ben Crump Law, and is the founder of EPW Law. From civil rights cases to high profile cases, litigation, Paige has been forefront of fighting for justice and equality. So let's dive in right after this commercial.
Just like everyone, my life is jam-packed. I'm always on the move. Whether it's personal or business, I live in the fast lane. But self-care, mentally and physically, is top priority for me. That's why I'm a part of the Texture Club at my favorite salon. They always treat you like family, and that experience leaves me wanting more. So instead of worrying about my ends, treatments, and styles, my easy monthly subscription to the Texture Club solves everything. I let the pros focus on my hair, so I can focus on the other things that matter in my life.
All right, welcome back, Paige.
Hi, thank you.
So I gave you a kind of a short snippet of a dynamic career in law so far and community. Elevator pitch. Run an elevator. I run into Paige White. What are you telling me?
My name is Paige White. My firm, EPW Law, we handle serious criminal defense as well as civil rights cases, everything from employment, police brutality, to personal injury and negligence cases. What makes my firm different than a lot of other firms is that we are a boutique firm. We do not take on every single case. Your case will be handled with care, and that we approach advocacy from a storytelling, client-centered, human-first way that I frankly don't think that firms are doing. And so, yeah, that's my elevator pitch.
Great. Okay. Awesome. So first, I'd have to have I wouldn't necessarily have a civil rights issue. I'd have to have an injury, but you are going to fight for the individual. So that gives you a great advantage over some of these humongous firms. I was just talking about some of these large agencies, how, a lot of times business is about numbers and not about people.
That's right.
So you talked about high profile cases. Like, can you touch on some of the high profile cases that our community would recognize?
Probably the most notable would be the Jalen Walker case, the young man that was shot over 94 times in Akron, Ohio. When I was at DeCello Levitt, we handled that case. When I was full time at Ben Crump's office, I was handling the Tyree Sampson case, who was the young man in Florida that was on the drop zone that fell off of the ride and died, as well as helping with the Breonna Taylor case. There's a number of other cases, but those are probably the most noteworthy.
Those are some big cases. Like, what was it like representing families at the center of those national conversations?
It was a surreal experience because it is another level when you are around someone that is 24 to 48 hours from losing their child and losing their child in the way that our families have lost their children. And so it is emotionally jarring. It really shows you the gritty, raw cruelty in the world and just deep how deeply it impacts people.
Right. All right. So, um, kind of in the same note, are a lot of these cases they treat black and brown litigants, black and brown injured people differently? Is that what is the biggest misconception about what you do in that respect, and also in like civil rights law? Is there a line? Are you picking cases to fight for under marginalized people? Like, what is the biggest misconception we may see in fighting for civil rights in these contexts?
I think I think that people think it's far easier than it is, and that the law is more friendly than it is, especially plaintiff friendly. Um, the law is built by the powerful people and the rich and powerful who run companies. And when we're talking about in the employment context, the law is very pro employer. And so I think a very common misconception when it comes to civil rights is just how difficult these cases are to bring in court, much less win. As well as in the police brutality context, when you have qualified immunity, it's obviously extraordinarily difficult to bring a case.
Hmm. Right. And for our qualified immunity is a fascinating subject, right? And I know we can't go over that in one segment, but can you kind of break down when you run into a qualified immunity scenario? What does that look like for our guests?
When I run into a qualified immunity case,
Yeah, like what is qualified immunity in layman's terms for our guests?
yeah, so qualified immunity is a protection for state actors, essentially. And it's a protection that the judiciary put in place to protect municipalities and state actors from what they call frivolous lawsuits. So essentially, it's a two-part test. Number one, was there a constitutional violation? Number two, is there actually precedent, meaning previous case law, to show that this constitutional violation was actually unconstitutional and that the police officer should have known that.
Yes. Right. So, because you get a lot of people like, "Hey, man, police officer shoved me," and then they're like, "I can get $1 million from it," and then they run into qualified immunity. Correct?
Right. Well, they run into the fact that, first of all, we have families that have actually lost their children and not gotten $1 million. But then qualified immunity is just the next highest hurdle. And again, it makes it very, very difficult. It's not impossible, but it makes it very, very difficult to bring these cases and hold these actors accountable.
Right. So, I noticed from your history, when we're talking about defense to advocacy, you had lessons from Harlem. You spent some time in Harlem.
I did. I worked at the Neighborhood Defender Service of Harlem, which is the public defender's office up there, for about 3 years.
Awesome. And you also was at the DC Public Defender's Office.
Yes, I was at the Public Defender Service, which is the PD's office here in DC.
All right. And how did those experiences kind of shape like your civil rights advocacy, your civil rights work today?
So I think that criminal defense is some of the hardest work that there is out there. You are working against a very well-funded machine, which is the state, the government, the police, prosecutor's office. And you are defending people that society has decided are unworthy. And so you're fighting an uphill battle from the beginning. And I think that in order to be a public defender and a good one, that you have to develop certain skills, such as being able to talk to people, whether it's your client or witnesses. You have to be able, because in Harlem and in DC, there was a period of time where I was investigating my own cases. That made it so that when I actually did get an investigator, I know what I'm supposed to be doing behind the scenes. I know what they're supposed to be doing behind the scenes. So I learned how to work these cases inside and outside of the courtroom. And so I brought that directly to civil rights work. It's the same thing. I just think it's less prevalent because you're dealing with money and people that are used to transactional relationships. But I think that that's what makes my firm and myself and people who do public defense work so special. because we do have that ability to make something out of nothing when you come to cases. We do have the ability to thoroughly investigate and talk to people. And again, when you bring it over into the civil world, I think that those are just niche skills that you don't come across every day.
All right, great. So I told you I had some experience. I was a certified legal intern at our public defender's office here in the 17th Circuit. Amazing experience, great. We had a great public defender, Gordon Weeks, lifetime public defender. I learned about Gideon's Army. I mean, it was a very, very um, passionate experience to see the type of advocacies going on. They wanted us to be zealous, and I fell in love with the experience. Ultimately, I went into the insurance defense for my next experience in law school. But man, it was interesting seeing how many people come through that system. And once you get caught in that system, one of the challenges I noticed was, you still got people. Like somebody may get a Paige White, but somebody may get a Joe Blow that just may be trying to, hey, I'm trying to get some experience. Like how did you take your winning experiences from the court to like changing minds outside of the courtroom now, I guess, as you advocate for civil rights?
Tell me the question again, because I want to make sure that I answer exactly what you're asking.
So I noticed that there was great fighting in the public defender's office. Like we're in
Right.
litigation almost every single day. It's
That's right.
almost like a face off between the state attorney's office every single day. We get to talk to the judge. The judge is like, you guys figure it out. Now, do you figure that was harder doing that battle in court against, I mean, you being an outstanding attorney versus like the outside changing people's minds outside of the courtroom now that you're in the court of equity? It seems like you're communicating a lot more with the people getting change in civil rights versus in the courtroom where you got to persuade a judge and a jury.
I think so. I think that it's just as difficult because in the criminal justice system, you're persuading a jury. So this is your community that you live in, assumingly, but at least the community that your client is in. And so I think that convincing a jury that your client is innocent, that they were acting in self-defense, that they're a person at the end of the day, which is truly what a lot of my job is really humanizing my client for a jury or a judge to say, I know that you're seeing what's on this piece of paper, but that's not the full story, and B, that's not the full person that you're seeing. I see the same fight when it comes to talking to the community. So many people don't actually know what happens in jail. They don't know that people aren't being fed. They don't know that they're in cells with mold growing on the walls, and that they're not given any cleaning products, and so they're taking bars of soap and washing the walls with it. They don't know that guards can turn off water, and that people have standing feces in their toilet for weeks on end.
Mm.
And then when I tell them this, they tend to be shocked. But again, education is really the when understanding people into, I think, compassion. And so I think that the same fights are inside and outside of the courtroom, because what I'm fighting for, again, humanizing my client, trying to get them to see them as a person, as more than what they are just being accused of, is exactly what we're trying to do in the streets.
Hmm. Okay. So interesting. Let's chat about intellectual because I'm a con law guy. I like con law. Again, I guess because law schools get into me. But we're in an intellectual kind of battleground right now. Right now, our political system and the civil rights battles feel like a less physical fight. Like we're not, the marches are good, but it seems now like it's more like intellectual war. Ideas, narratives, who controls them matters more than ever. And in that fight, it raises like an important question, I think, is where are the intellectuals on our side that are really going to help us win this so-called civil rights movement now? And like, do you see those leaders around? And like, are they on both sides of the aisle? Or because it's easy to say one side is stupid, but right now we're in an intellectual battle. Like, what do you see in the civil rights fight now that the intellectual leadership is focusing on to get us to this new horizon?
I think that so first of all, the people that I think that are going to help us get there and help us actually get us to where we want to be in the civil rights space are going to be community organizers and people that are actually on the ground doing the grassroots work in the community, whether that be immigration, criminal, which bleeds into civil and police brutality. I think that community organizers and people that are touching those affected every day are going to have the best strategies and ideas for how we actually help those people and what they actually need and how we actually make a change. I think that we're in a different world now where the leaders, I guess, of our generation it's so decentralized. We have social media where there's so many people and so many voices that are so powerful right now. Everyone's a journalist now, right? Like we're all reporting on what we're seeing, what's happening in our communities. And so I think that we collectively all have a place in this movement, but in terms of like who's leading it, I think that it's going to be community organizers.
Right. And like like is that because, to be honest with you, I mean, we are bombarded like everywhere I look. I was at a birthday party for my son yesterday, and every single person is glued to the phone.
Mhm.
Every piece of information you get is coming from a phone. To the point where I was talking to a friend the other day, and I was like, "Man, I got this great concept I want to talk about." It was Russian oligarch or something far left, and I was like, uh, "I'll send you the video." He's like, "Oh, I like book. I like to read," and I was like, "Damn, I haven't heard that in maybe 20 years."
A while.
He's like, "I prefer the book channel." So right now, everyone is getting all of our information from this social media instrument, their phones, our technology. Like, are we winning in that area? Like, how do you feel about us getting our information from there? Like, where can we get quality information? Or how is that looking?
So I think, like with most things, it's a double-edged sword. I think that at the end of the day, social media and its effect kind of just on our mental health. I think that's a different conversation that I think that we will eventually have enough data to assess. But I think that we can all tell that it has a negative effect generally. In terms of getting your news, which I think is a separate conversation, I do think that it's helpful in that there's so many different sources and resources for you to learn things that it's information is sped much faster to many more people. And
Mhm.
so you have things like George Floyd, when that happened, it went viral around the world. You had people in different countries protesting because of what happened here. And so I thought that that was powerful. We're hearing from so many different young people, right, who are bringing different ideas to the table. I love that, again, everyone has the ability these days to make your voice heard as loud as you want it to be. At the same time, obviously, fake news and the other side has their own
You got a great
swirl.
machine going right now.
Right, exactly. Right. We can't exactly agree on what exactly the truth is. But if you're asking where to get news from, again, I think that organizers in your city are going to be the best place to figure out what's going on in your city. Different cop watches, at least for DC, especially now. That's where I'm finding out where different road closures are, where different brutality scenes are, what's kind of happening in my community.
Yeah, let's sit in DC for a while. So you're in DC now, okay? And without getting into constitutional law too heavy, president sends in 5,000 National Guard members
That's right.
to police the community.
Yes.
What? How did we get there?
So I
Your
think, I mean,
opinion.
my theory is that things started getting hot in the Epstein kitchen, and people were demanding for the files, and so Trump is trying to create smoke and mirrors and create an issue where now he's saying that there's all these crime-ridden cities that he has to take over, and DC is the first one. I think that DC is an easy target because we are not a state and we don't have the protections of a state. Congress does have the final say of what happens in DC, even with home rule. And so having that federal influence already makes us an easy target. But again, the president is citing some sort of emergency that's happening in DC when we've had the lowest crime rates that we've had in the past 30 years. So um,
So
when
where's
someone
that?
asks why this is happening, I think we can figure out that it's from the Epstein files.
Right. So on one side, there's a distraction to divert from the core issues of what's going on in our country. But on the other side, does he have the power to do that? Is this
So
being challenged, or
technically,
is there no remedy because DC doesn't have a?
well, it's difficult because Congress is supposed to be kind of voting on this, but Donald Trump averted that by essentially declaring an emergency. Congress can look at this, and they should look at this. Our mayor should be fighting back on this, but because she is not, there's not. She's putting us in a position as a community where we're forced to fight for our own rights because you can't on one hand talk about statehood and then on the next hand let the federal government take over the city.
Mm. And there was similar activity in California. And I think the next target is going to be Chicago.
Chicago, right?
Okay, so let's now you have to put on the devil advocate hat. So, would additional federal resources be in what scenario would this be a good idea? Should he have just given the say resources to the local authorities to manage whatever this so-called emergency that has been declared?
What he should have done is taken some of the federal budget and given the public defender service a higher budget. That's how you keep the community safe. You should take federal budget and put it into DCPS. If you want to take federal money, there's plenty of community resources that could use it, instead of building different real estate projects and beautifying the Capitol grounds. The $1 million that's being spent every day can be used towards so many other things, towards housing the homeless or the unhoused in DC, towards after school programs. The list goes on, but more police is just not the answer, and it never has been.
Right. So, so essentially, a great strategy. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but a great strategy would be to let's get to the root of the problem. Let's provide the cost to police and send all these resources. We can save the people in these desperate means, our people in desperate means, by using those resources to prevent and to help versus to criminalize.
That's right. And Baltimore's mayor can speak directly to that. He did exactly what we're talking about in terms of taking money, investing it into the community, and you see the crime rate drop. It's a direct correlation that we know exists. And again, we've tried the more policing tactic. That is the strategy that we've had for centuries, and it does not work.
Mhm. So, leadership, and again, I know you're a leader. If we want to make future leaders, what does a true leadership in law kind of look like? I want you to talk to our future lawyers. So all my law school friends are going to be looking at this. I'm going to push it and promote it. Like, what does leadership in law look like to help us solve some of these intellectual challenges?
I think that leadership looks like collaboration. Fred Hampton talked about the need of bringing us all together. I think that it's such a simple concept that is so powerfully overlooked, but we are so much more powerful together. And so, for those in law school, start talking to your law student groups, whether it's BOLSA or whatever organization that you're in. Find an issue and galvanize around it. Um, I know that there's something happening in your city, in your town. Hold some know your rights trainings. Get involved in the community doing cop watches. Know your rights trainings are just the most direct and easiest way for law students to get involved in the community. but providing rapid response to immigration groups. There's so many different things that law students can do, but I think that building leadership is all about bringing people together. The best ideas happen in collaboration.
Right. Yeah, we're having a big in South Florida. Our one of our biggest things is immigration.
Hmm.
Obviously, because we have such a diverse population, a mix of people: Haitians, Caribbeans, South Americans. They're all here concerned about their status because of the rapid change in our immigration. Um, so that would be a great opportunity. What would you look at that as an area of law for, say, a new law student, like immigration, or speak to a civil, immigration or a civil rights attorney? Would you think that would be a great space to investigate?
Absolutely. I think that right now more than ever, you're going to have a ton of work. There's a ton of good work to be done because as we see, our president is, and the police are indiscriminately arresting people and
Am
trying
I
to
live? I
deport.
got kicked out.
Okay, you're back. Um,
Paige, are you
I
there?
would, yes. Can you hear me? Hello.
Oh man, we got to go on a lightning round.
Wait, can you hear me? Okay. I think that's an area of law that's definitely going to need a lot of help. Again, as we see, the police and law enforcement is indiscriminately arresting and trying to deport people. So that's definitely an area of law that's going to need a lot of good and dedicated lawyers, as well as civil rights work. It's all there's some really good fights right now to get in all different arenas, and so whether it's civil, criminal, immigration, I think that there's a lot of areas that need help.
All right, Paige, you're live. Okay. The enemy is trying to steal our thunder, but he will not prevail.
That's okay.
So we're running into our lightning round segment, anyways. Let's have a little fun. Thank you for sparking the fire. We're gonna, I know for our salon and I know the Black law student community in St. Thomas, we'll be hosting the Southern region of Balsa upcoming weekend, and I know they'll be addressing some of those issues. I'll make sure to be in attendance, and I'll spread some of your words. So in the lightning round, we're going to be closing it out. I'm going to throw out a word or phrase.
Okay.
Don't think too hard about it. First thing comes to mind. No overthinking is the rule.
Okay.
Ready to go?
Yes.
All right. Work-life balance.
Yoga.
Natural hair in the workplace.
Locks.
Box. Nice. Imposter syndrome.
Stupid.
Okay. Sunday dinner.
Fried chicken.
Roger. Uh-oh. Glass ceiling.
Broken.
Okay. Generational wealth.
White folks.
Oh, Lord. Okay, so thank you for this incredible conversation, Paige. You guys, her journey is going to show us it's not just about law, not about cases. She's about people, justice, and courage. If you got any clients that need any civil rights injury work, we're going to send them over there. Hopefully, she'll give me an internship or something.
Of course.
So here on Give Me Mike, we're all about motivating, inspiring, and cultivating our future. And Paige's story does just that. We're thankful for her. I want to thank everyone for tuning in. We're trying to get our subscribers up, so don't forget to subscribe, share, and keep this conversation going. Until the next time, keep pushing, keep building, and keep using your voice. And thank you, Paige.
Thank you.
Law and Order segment.